Hey Sohum, how are you doing?
I am doing well. How are you?
I'm good. You want to introduce yourself before we begin?
Yeah, my name is Sohum Sukhatankar. I'm 15 years old and I won the National Spelling Bee in 2019.
All right, yeah. So, reason I brought you here today is because this podcast is meant to bring to light experiences of past current competitors to help future current competitors like help deal with their kind of emotions and mind to be able to control it in an effective way and not let it kind of get to them and get in the process of achieving their goal. And so I was wondering if you had anything like during your experiences that you wanted to talk about that we could kind of use to do that.
Yeah, of course. So, advice that applies for all levels of competition. So what I experienced when I was going through all levels of competition was varying degrees of stress, and of course, I'm sure I'm not alone in that. So when you think about a competition, like not just spelling bees that I went through, but all competitions, you have to realize that the end goal is not just to get the highest place. Like, of course, that's a good goal to have. It sounds very cliche, but the end goal should be to do the best that you can do. And if that's not first place yet, then that's fine. But you should also, like, before having the like getting tunnel vision for just trying to win, you should also try to make the most of the competition, enjoy it, and see if you can develop a genuine passion for what's there, because passion will also take you very far. You need a combination of passion, drive, and skill. Those three things will allow you to do really well in any field.
Yeah, I agree with that. Just one thing I wanted to say is when you are doing a competition, there should be a reason you're doing it outside of just kind of winning it because if you truly just wanted to win, like that was your only goal, then you might as well do any competition, right? Because you have that opportunity in any competition. But the fact that you're actively choosing a competition to participate in must mean there's a reason why you actively chose that competition over the other ones. And that means there must be some driving force. And like Soham said, that driving force should be why you're participating in that competition and not the prizes. And what's ahead of that shouldn't be pulling you in. So I totally agree with that. And another question I wanted to ask is I know like everybody obviously like feel stressed when they're doing competitions. Like if you don't feel stressed when you're doing a competition, I don't know what's wrong with you, but um there's healthy stress, right? That's what propels us to prepare harder when we're getting closer to the competition, or what tells us if we're not working hard enough. But then there's also obviously unhealthy stress that actually we would be better off without. And so I was just wondering like what, not necessarily healthy or unhealthy, but like when did you feel stressed and like what kind of caused that?
All right. So, as I said earlier, I felt varying degrees of stress. But the points where I felt the most stress were before the national competitions, and the points where I felt the least stress were immediately after, like during the summer, because that was when most of the major competitions had finished, and it was sort of like a curve uh, leading up from summer to like April and May. But as you said, it's a good idea to find the point of healthy stress. If you're not stressing yourself enough, like if you're feeling no stress, then that means that you aren't pushing yourself enough, or that you're like just wasting time. So there should be like a certain amount of stress, but if you're beginning to feel like, if you're seeing like physical effects of it, like sleep loss, or if you're feeling tired all the time, or you can't focus on tasks, then that's a sign of unhealthy stress. So you need to make sure that you're finding a balance between these competitions and the rest of your life. um, so yeah, the point where I felt the most stress was like in later years, uh, the spelling bee, as you may know, finishes in eighth grade. You can compete past that. So in my seventh grade year, I was thinking, okay, this is my second to final year, so I need to make sure I do really well here. And I'm sure you were the same way with your geography bee in the last
Yeah, I
year.
really felt that. Yeah.
So I'm sure it's the same with a lot of people there. So what you need to do is realize that pushing yourself too hard, studying too much isn't actually going to make you learn more, because once you reach the point where you have too much stress, you're not going to retain as much information for the competitions, and it's a lose-lose because you're feeling more unhealthy and you're not learning as much as you should.
Yeah. So apart from the healthy stress, which everyone should have if they're part of a competition, because stress is just a natural human response to any outside factor that's like outside the norm, like chill zone, I guess. Um, but specifically what you were talking about, I didn't feel that spelling bee because I was in fifth grade, but when I was in eighth grade, I really felt that stress of like, if I lose, it's over here. And so I think that's different than the stress I was talking about last week with Warren. Like, am I going to finish the coursework or not? It's more related to when the competition will occur. And I think that in some ways might be better, but some ways might be worse. And the thing that helped me get through that is, and one thing I want to clarify, a lot of people think that even negative stress is good because it pushes you. But what you're not realizing is that when you have so much negative stress, you're thinking more about how to cope with that stress, what the stress itself causes. Like, I know some people might have like nightmares or things like that because they get like really focused into it. And so those things are going to distract you much more from learning the material, like Soham said. Like, if you have too much stress, you're going to think more about that stress and not actually about what you're intending that stress to do. So you have to find a balance between pushing yourself in a way where you can maximize how much material or how much knowledge you want to gain, but also not pushing yourself to the point where you're thinking about pushing yourself and not actually like the material. Um, and so I think that's a good way of also countering the stress of, am I going to win or not? This is my last year. Is realizing that just thinking about that question over and over again is only wasting more time. It's only wasting more energy, things like that. Like, just do it. And even if you lose, like, to be honest, um, even if I lost the GOB in eighth grade, that's not like a huge big deal. Like, 2 years later, the only things that I gained from winning the GOB is the knowledge that I studied and the connections I was able to make with the world. Like, sure, it's cool to be called GOB champion and all, but the title itself really doesn't have any value except for those 1 or 2 weeks surrounding the championship, or even spelling bee champion. I'm sure you can relate to this. Like, it feels so cool for the 1 or 2 weeks after, but then like maybe 1, 2 years after, you realize the only value you had from participating in those competitions was what you gained from preparing, or the experiences like during B week or something like that. Those are the most important things to take away from a competition. And so, like we said at the start, realizing that you're working towards gaining those things, knowledge, like fun with fellow competitors, realizing that you're working towards that goal rather than winning, that also sets you up for satisfaction in later life. Because I know a lot of my friends that were hell bent on like winning spelling bee or GOB. They're like, now that I look back at it, I hated spelling bee. It took away like 5 years of my life for no reason. I hated GOB. It took away like 5 years of my life for no reason. But people don't understand that just because you don't win something doesn't mean you didn't gain something from it. Uh, because quite frankly, the the small facts, like the capital of this is capital of Bulgaria, or how to spell this word, those things quite honestly don't matter in the real world, like after, except in a spelling or um uh like context. But the effort and dedication that you put in to learn those things, that really helps in high school. And I can tell you it really helps in high school. The ability to analyze things and connect them. I know spellers and like um GOB competitors are like probably much better than people that haven't competed any competitions on average, because they have that connection and analyzing ability. And one thing I say, even if like it has no use, nobody asks you, why do you watch YouTube videos? Like spelling bee and GOB are things people do as like their passion or something they're like fun to do. Like you don't go up to someone and ask like, why are you playing that video game? It's not gonna like give you a job later. Um,
Honestly, yeah, adding on to that, there were
yeah,
two
go ahead.
types of people I noticed. There were the people who like had a genuine passion for it, and people who exhausted themselves studying something they hated. Usually, they were like getting all the resources they could, studying as many hours as they could a day, and they ended up not doing as well as the passion-driven people because they just didn't enjoy it, and that made it harder for them.
Yeah, it's kind of what I say is like 1,000 times a zero is still zero. Like no matter how much drive, no matter how much effort, determination, power you put in behind what you do, there has to be at least like 1 ounce of love for what you're doing. Um, because if it's directed the wrong way, or if it's not going the way it should be, then it's like it's not really going to result in anything. Because the thing is, when if you're studying spelling for the competition, or studying spelling for just like memorizing words, you're losing out on understanding like key cultural things. Like one example I always use is that from uh, Afrikaans, I realized the importance of like livestock in their culture, because so many words were dependent on diseases of livestock. And it showed like the difference in society between America and like South Africa, like the difference that there was between like how the economy and how people lived, and things like that opened my eyes into the world. But if you're just studying spelling for winning the, you're not like you're not going to grasp that. um if you're just like studying it for memorizing the words, because oftentimes people don't even look at like the etymology, so you wouldn't even know that it's Afrikaans if you just like memorize the word. So I can't stress this enough, but if you're going to do a competition and you want to be successful in it, it shouldn't be for like winning that competition, because by participating in the competition, you've already won. Like it's hard, like it's hard to agree with what I say. Like people always say like, yeah, it's easy for you to say because you won. But trust me, like I wouldn't really care right now if I didn't win, because like there's no there's really no difference in what I learned. Um because like there really is no, I would still have the same knowledge if I didn't win than if yeah, I would have the same knowledge if I didn't win, um compared to now. And that's kind of the realization that people should have going into competitions is you can be, I understand like it's just natural to be disappointed after you lose, but you shouldn't hold on to that like grudge or um grief for like your entire life or like 5 years after, because what you're doing is only destroying other opportunities that you can be successful in.
Yeah, going off of that, I was thinking about all the time I spent playing out various scenarios of scripts, thinking, oh, okay, so if I get this word, if this person misses, then I'll get this place, and just and that wasted so much time. And now I keep thinking about this quote from Scott Reamer's Words of Wisdom. One of the spellers in the back said, "In 10 years, no one's gonna remember the name of the champion from X year or Y year." But yeah, so you need to more important than the actual words, or in geography's case the questions, you shouldn't spend time after you lose thinking about the question RNG. If I had just gotten this instead of that, I would have won. Because in the long run, the thing that matters, like you said, is the lessons you gain from it and the knowledge you gain from it. Those two things matter more than the actual placements.
Yeah, and I'm sure if you truly put passion into something like spelling or geography, even if maybe you don't want to pursue a career in those things, like I guarantee you that if you become like a geographer, you would be as successful, if not more successful, than somebody who won in like the year we participated in. Because it's literally just the passion that matters, and passion always leads to effort. Um, except if you're like restricted on acting upon that passion. But passion almost always leads to effort, and passion times effort is just that there's no like secret to success or anything. That's just it. If you're passionate about something, then go ahead and put your all in it. And you shouldn't, if you're truly passionate about it, you shouldn't be result oriented, because there's a reason why you're passionate about something. It's not because like this even applies to sports. Like if you say I'm passionate about basketball or football or soccer, you're not passionate about football because you want to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
That's not why like Tom Brady or um Peyton Manning, that's not why they chose to play football. They didn't say I'm going to win the Super Bowl, so I'm going to play football. They chose to play football for a different reason and a passion, and they worked towards that goal of winning the Super Bowl. That's okay, but um they weren't they weren't like using that as their entire thing. So it's okay to work towards a goal, but that goal shouldn't dominate your passion, is what I'm trying to say. Because obviously you need something to work towards. Like um that's why people do the spelling bee and geob, because it's hard to study spelling and geography without like such a guided like competition that allows them to or at least in my case, the reason why is because I wanted to do spelling or geography, but I couldn't get myself to like go on a path um and actually learn how to do it, because I was only in elementary school, so like I wasn't about to go and like study a linguistics degree or something. But like spelling bee was a way I could do that. And that's how I think competition should be viewed, not as avenues for winning victory, because you already won by doing things in the passion that you want. I think competition should be viewed as a venue for focusing on your passion.
I
Just
think
another reason. Yeah, go
competitions
ahead.
should be a way for like to express your passion, but they shouldn't like decrease your passion. Like you can be, if you're passionate about something before a competition, truly passionate, then you should still have passion for that thing after the competition. Because competitions serve as ways to like consolidate all the knowledge from a field into one thing, but they don't have the sum total of the field. So if you think something is interesting, but a competition you feel is unfair for whatever reason or something like that, then you should still find that interesting. But
Yeah,
don't
and
let
one
the results of one thing dominate your opinions on a field as a whole.
yeah, exactly. One thing that I wanted to say is like kind of related to that is, oh man, I just forgot what I was gonna say. Um I was gonna say something like a competition, yeah, isn't the only thing that you can do related to that thing. And so if it's not like serving your needs towards that passion, then don't do it. Like you don't have to feel forced to do, like if you want to explore etymology linguistics, you don't have to do a spelling bee. You can go ahead and like learn that linguistics degree at like grade 5 or whatever. I personally just found spelling bee the most helpful way to channel that passion. But you can do whatever you want to learn linguistics. It doesn't have to be the spelling bee. Same with geography. You don't have to do the geography bee. You can, I don't know, do some research, uh, things like that. Even with That's like the same thing with sports or any other competition. You don't have to enroll in like school sports. You can just play with your friends, um things like that. So I think the problem, and this specifically probably applies to spelling bee and gob, is the fact that people see like learning those things as only available through competitions. And it's sad to see that like other resources for learning linguistics or geography are not being used because people think, like 90% of people think, I have to go this way to learn this, one in reality there's like 5 million different paths that people have for kids to take to learn those things.
And then
And
there's
so
like pressure because
yeah.
like even I've known some people who have like not done spelling bees, just like gone through the dictionary, made lists, just because they're passionate about it. And then others have said, "Oh, you should compete. You'd be really good at it." And then it's been really sad to see because their passion has been like corrupted by competitions they were pressured to compete in, and it was destroyed.
Yeah, so I think like kind of as a checkpoint, a key like summary thing of everything that we've said so far is, A, if you're passionate about something, you can use a competition to help channel that passion, but don't let the competition's results, prizes, whatever, guide how that passion goes for you. Um, and then another thing is, a key way to help reduce unhealthy stress, specifically in like your case and my case about like, oh no, it's all going to be over after this, is to realize that thinking about that is only going to waste time and build more stress, and waste time and build more stress. Because as you waste time, you realize that you have less time, and then you get more stressed about that. So then it's just a vicious cycle, and then you're like stuck thinking about, am I going to win or not? When you would probably have a better chance of winning by like being quiet and studying. Um, but yeah, I actually can like seriously relate to that thing in eighth grade. Like that almost got to me, but um, soon I kind of broke out of the cycle, realizing that like it does nothing except um, harm you. It's not going to increase your chances of winning just by thinking about it. Um, well, do you have any other like things you want to talk about or discuss?
No, I just wanted to say, adding on to your last point, um, so due to the coronavirus in 2020, there wasn't a national spelling bee. So when I was in seventh grade, I was under the illusion that I had one more year. If I had known that that was my last year, I think it might have actually broken me, considering how much I already thought about the bee, uh, played out all those scenarios in my mind. So I'm just grateful I didn't have to go through that like you and some others did. But I think your advice, while it's especially important to those in eighth grade, I think it's also really good for everyone in other years.
Yeah, and another thing is like all of this advice seems very simple and like duh, when we like say it out loud, but you have to actively like use it. You can't just watch it and be like, oh, that's cool. Now I'm going to go back to worrying about if I'm going to win or not. You have to like actually think about, no, I'm going to stop worrying and I'm going to use a more healthy stress route instead of saying, am I going to win or not, which leads absolutely nowhere. You're not getting anywhere from that. But if you can redirect that to what do I have to study now to ensure that my weaknesses aren't so weak. That's how I broke that cycle. Instead of thinking, am I going to win the GOB in 8th grade? Is in my last year. I said, oh, what about um what about country statistics, like comparisons that I have to study because I didn't study those very well, and that could lead to me losing. Um, that's still kind of not super good, but it at least broke that cycle to where I was actually doing something with my stress instead of just sitting on the sofa and crying. And so I think converting your unhealthy stress to healthy stress by having this sort of constructive criticism thinking with yourself is the most effective way because I don't think you can remove stress that's there. I don't think that's a you can like deflate it and decrease it, but if your body like or mind senses something outside, it's going to be there. You can't just be like threat removed, but I think it's kind of like an energy can't be created or destroyed thing, but it can be transferred. I really think like because that's what I did. You can convert unhealthy stress to healthy stress to where it's actually constructive and helpful to your preparation experience.
Yeah, I think it's up to you how to channel the stress. Like it'll always be there, but you can use it constructively, or you can use it and let it destroy you and let it make you just get worse.
Yeah. All right. Well, I that was a really good discussion. I think that will help a lot of people. And again, one thing I want to stress is don't just watch the video and say, oh my God, that was so cool. And then just go back to doing the things that this video was maybe supposed to help you with. And another thing is if you're really like getting impacted by the stuff we're talking about and like this general kind of advice doesn't help, please like actually go see a therapist or something. Like this is not official therapy. I wish I was an official therapist, but I'm not. I'm only a junior in high school. So yeah. And actually that's one more thing I want to talk about is like having conversations like this is supposed to be normal. Which is kind of why I found I wanted to make this podcast is because I want people to realize that like exercise or eating healthy food, people should be like, especially competitors, should be having conversations like this to manage mental health. Um, like even outside, like therapy is like kind of like if you have a sickness, you get like medicine, right? So that's kind of like therapy. But you can do simple things like talking like this, like me and Soham are right now, to help make sure that you don't go down like a super dark path. But those some of those things are just inevitable because you might just have like a mental illness that's like chemically formed in your brain. So uh, I'm just saying that this should be normal. Like I shouldn't have to have created a podcast to do this. Like we should already be having conversations like this. I know like I know at least one person who's committed suicide due to like competitive thinking, and I think that they wouldn't have committed suicide if they were able to talk to people like me and Soham are now about dealing with all of that. So yeah, that's just one thing I wanted to say about why I created this podcast and what the goal of mental health among competitors should be. All right. Well, Soham, if you don't have anything else to say, hopefully I can talk to you later. But I think that was a really good discussion, and I hope we can help some people with it.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I think this went really well.
All right. No problem. Take care, man.